Hello, and good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Magic, the First Pioneers podcast. This podcast is all about the Pioneer format, and I'm your host, Kevin Finkel, joined here with my co-hosts and a special guest.
Hey, everybody. It's Ryan, the cardboard samurai out of the Tokyo area of Japan, and special guest.
What up? It's your special guest, Ashiok, back again.
All right, so pretend you're me, who's been out of the country for the last 6 days. Has anything been going on in Pioneer, guys?
I don't know. I think there might have been like a big tournament or something.
A return to paper magic, I hear.
Yeah, somehow I missed that. So that's what we want to talk about this episode, is we definitely want to talk about the fact that the Pro Tour was going on this last weekend, and while I was out of town and missed the whole thing, a lot of important stuff happened, a lot of cool things were coming out of it, I got to assume. Hoping you two can be my guides here and fill me in on what happened at the Pro Tour Pioneer 2023 February. Well, I don't know if there's multiple Pro Tours anymore, so we're calling it that one.
Well, sadly for me, I could only catch parts and glimpses of it because, I was, in Japan and I'm waking up super late, so...
Well, looks like the illness falls on me, and I have great news for both of you. Yay. I was keeping up with it. So I
good.
I'd love to tell everyone about it and how it all went down.
Great. So I was thinking we'd start off maybe by just kind of talking about what happened before the Pro Tour. I know we have some results from some MTGO events, and Ashak, you were playing, right? You played a little bit before the Pro Tour.
I was playing a lot of leagues and a lot of prelims and similar. I didn't actually have a chance to play any of the challenges because I was grinding for my RC invite for season 3, which is Pioneer. So technically, I was making Pioneer moves, but no, I sadly didn't have a chance to play any of the bigger events. However, I did see how they were going down, and I did see a lot of interesting deck lists and a lot of interesting innovations into Pioneer start to break out, especially more recently.
So love to hear that. I would love to hear that it was not just red, black, and mono green.
Oh, it's still there.
What seemed to have been the top decks for the last 6 months, 8 months.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is we're still seeing these top decks just accept that they have better mana bases. That being Gruul and Rakdos and mono green. It's 2 flex slots have changed. They're it's a little bit more up in the air. We've seen some Cityscape Levelers in the main deck, some Mightstones in the main deck. But the more exciting things that we've seen is we've seen a lot of new innovation in a lot of different spaces. Some of the new cards that we highlighted that we thought would be really good in the format. One of them turns out sees a whole bunch. I saw a lot of play in these past few weeks. That being Migloz Maze Crusher.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be good.
Yeah, we see this as a 2 or 3 of now, replacing Lovestruck Beast in the Gruul Vehicles deck.
That's insane. I didn't even think about it seeing play outside of Bard class. I didn't think it'd be good enough.
You were right, but you were wrong. So it worked out for both.
I've been a bit of a Lovestruck Beast hater, so I'm down to see that replaced.
Yeah, and a 4/4 beater was just always really good. And when I've seen this card being played, usually you're using it for its 3 ability, which is destroying an enchantment or artifact if it's ever relevant.
Breaks the mirror.
But it just the one is the big one. The one being able to just give it vigilance and menace, it just makes it such an efficient beater for the turns that it needs to be. So the card just was so much better than what I gave it credit for originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a big shock.
So it's one of the shocks that came to me personally as well was how underperforming in my idea. Still performed pretty okay, but not as format warping as I once thought it might be, would be Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines.
Okay.
We're talking about this in the metagame leading up to the Pro Tour, right?
Yeah, leading up. We're seeing it in challenges. We saw it on one of the showcase challenges that first place was actually taken with Enchanties, my baby, my Enigmatic Fire Incarnation deck. What we're seeing it as a one of in that deck. And that's only the really place we've seen it. We haven't seen it pop out in a whole lot of other places. We saw it pop out in another Super Qualifier that happened a little bit more recently, but I'm going to save this spicy list for a little bit later before we talk about a whole bunch of other cards. But this is where we thought we would see it, and this is exactly where it showed up. The list looks a lot more differently than how I personally would have built it, but it still is just such an interesting... it's so interesting the fact that it didn't warp the format as much as it did, because I thought this card was going to.
I mean, are we looking at results right now, or are we just kind of talking about in general?
I thought we were talking about results and general, because like both.
Well, but which results are we talking about? I was thinking maybe we could start with just real quick on the February 11th. They had a Pioneer Challenge.
Sure. Maybe I'm jumping a little bit too far ahead. I think I jumped 1 week ahead. But I am.
Yeah, because I see the Super Qualifier is like the week later. It's like right before the Pro Tour. I'm looking at the day after it went live on MTGO.
Mm-hmm. That would be that'd be the 11th then. You are
so 11th. Correct. I can just read over the list and then we can take turns. Maybe Kevin, you can do the next one. So on this 11th Pioneer Challenge, we had Misplaced Ginger first place with Rakdos Midrange. Nothing too different out of the main board except playing the Blackleaf Cliffs now. On second place, we have Lord Beerus on Mono Red. And again, we're not seeing a lot of new stuff here. It's just, kind of the same old. Consistency is key, I guess. Next, we have third place, SeventhProphet, which was playing Mono White.
Oh, he always has some fun stuff. I was going to say, he's a big Mono White player.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the Mono White. Now, this actually has got a lot of new stuff in here. This is like Mono White Midrange.
It's
Night of the White Orchard.
It's Mono White Midrange splashing red for Nahiri the Unforgiving and Fable the Mirror Breaker. Well, also, I believe playing... no, this one wasn't playing Chain of the Rocks. I thought this was playing Chain of the Rocks.
Is this kind of like the deck you were talking about that you were building?
Yeah,
Do
no,
you
this deck
kind of go over this list and then tell me how you did it differently?
Sure. I originally wanted to shift away from any of the red splash, and I wanted to use a lot more utility lands like Nykthos and Field of Ruin, because Field of Ruin right now is, I think, at its prime. I think people are either playing a lot of basics in mono green or not a lot of basics. But the way that SeventhProphet built his list very differently than mine was also the inclusion of the card Phyrexian Vindicator. I was never really high on that card, and he said that in his post that it performed adequately, wasn't like too impressive, but wasn't too horribly.
Okay.
But again, he was the one that won, so I guess maybe that card's a lot better than I give it credit for. But he wasn't as big of a fan of Nahiri, if I remember correctly, in his Twitter write-up. But he still said that it was okay. Like, it performed okay. It wasn't like exciting or anything. The thing that it was really doing was just kind of like getting back something that had like already died. That being like a Skyclave Apparition to help clear the board, a Charming Prince to create value, and the big thing was this thing got back a Phyrexian Vindicator. You get to get in for a good 5 chunk, and that was how you kind of like ended up closing up the game.
But so you would need to play it as the full cost
for Vindicator. For Vindicator, yeah. And so that's the big difference, really.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the Orion deck, right? Lay Down the Arms. Heard that's been really overperforming for people that have been able to play it. Eternal Wanderer is another new one that they have in this set or this deck.
I think that's a big reason to be going towards mono white, in my opinion. Is Eternal Wanderer being a sweet card.
Yeah, the card is when I originally scaled it, I thought it was just like an interesting card. But the more and more I kept playing with it, the more and more I kept reading the +1 ability, and I eventually kept realizing that you could target your opponent's things, and they come back at their end step. That was the big thing. So you were able to like fog their creatures for a turn. I can't tell you how many Shieldreds I fogged to be able to get in for damage.
And this also plays Ossification, which we were kind of high on, I think, in our set review. And it seems like that's actually been overperforming as well. Would you guys agree?
I wasn't that high on it in the set review. I thought that it didn't have very many homes because the decks that play, things like Chain to the Rocks were enigmatic previously, which wouldn't want this.
Yeah, I think it's performing as I expected. It was just a really cheap, good, efficient removal spell, and that's all I wanted from it. And it did exactly that. It wasn't insane. It was never like, oh my god, this card is breaking the format. It was always just like, yeah, this card's like playable. It's good.
And I also see that this deck is playing Vanish into Eternity in the sideboard, which is the 2 white instant that costs 3 more if it targets a creature, but exiles any permanent.
Yeah, I got
any
no clue on this one.
Permanent.
I got no clue on this one. He just said he liked it. I have no I have no support on that one. That guy's on his own for that one.
Okay. Should I continue down the list of the other finishers on this challenge? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, fourth place we had Plaza 23. Looks like he is playing a blue-white control. I'm not seeing anything new from this. Maybe, yeah, just playing Wandering in Person, not playing the new one. So
No
not a big
cards.
change there. I do see people playing Brimaz in the sideboard now. And Regal Caracal. I think, was it Claudio that started this, or what?
So I talked with Claudio about this because I also was confused, and I originally saw him streaming in a Discord, and I joined, talked to him about it. It's just a way to transition, because in games 2 and 3 against Red Black and other really grindy matchups, you would board out all your removal. It's control. What are you gonna hit, right? And so going into these really efficient creatures like Brimaz making bodies constantly and Regal Caracal just already coming with 2 other bodies was just really hard for a lot of decks to deal with when they didn't have any removal. So it was just one of those catch-22s that ended up working out for him.
And also, we're going back to Kahira, the Orphan Guard, which, saw a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of play, but did see play in the past in control decks, and people just kind of took it out. But it makes more sense now with Brimaz and Regal Caracal in there. Is it Caracal?
It's whatever your heart desires.
Okay. Anyways, moving on to fifth place, we had Lane 5893 playing Gruul Vehicles. It looks like, of course, we got the Copperline Gorge in there from the new set. And, we have the Nissa Ascended Animist in here, which is kind of an interesting, it's interesting for me, I guess.
Yeah.
This is actually an Obosh deck. Wow, an Obosh deck, sorry. Obosh. Wait,
Obosh?
This isn't Vehicles, never mind, is it? No, this is not Vehicles. Just
it's kind of like Vehicles,
Stompy.
but it's Obosh Vehicles.
Okay. Because it's got Reckless Stormseeker, it's got Garruk's Harbinger in there.
Yeah, it's a throwback. It's also got a playset of Fable. And Domri, Anarch of Bolus.
I mean, I play that.
Hey, I like the idea of the Domri there. I'm not so sure about losing the 2-drops entirely. I did see this list and I thought it was interesting, but I do like the Domri. I think that card has a lot of power in this deck to be aggressive, to be, just does a lot of good things.
Yeah, I think my issue is you lose 4-drops, which is the bigger deal, because you lose.
Yeah, that's the bigger one.
The Cadillac, use the Cadillac car. Yeah, it's really sad, but I think it's really interesting that we are seeing Nissa kind of fill that role in this deck of being the thing that creates a bunch of tokens. It is a must-kill threat. I think it probably works out worse, but it's still super interesting. I would love to know how. I would love to run a league of this afterwards.
Yeah, a league of their own.
Okay, sixth place we had Ignotus 97. Let's see, they are on. Now this one looks like another blue-white control, another Azorius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
nothing different there. Instead of going the cat way, they have the Baneslayer Angel and Lyra Dawnbringer. And Starnheim Unleashed is also in the sideboard, which is kind of neat. I mean, you can kind of build.
Yeah, I've seen Starnheim before as a sideboard option. Again, just you want to have something that's high creature density because it's hard for Red Black to compete on a 1-to-1 basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. This just to kind of see how mono whites evolved, and people have different ways to kind of take over the game. Like before, we had just the Hull Break Horror, those big creatures like that, big super creatures, or the Dream Trawler. But now people are switching it up, and I think that's kind of cool. I can respect, the people playing the cats or, doing the angels thing. Pick your poison or pick whatever you want to play with. Seventh place, Azax was on. It looks like this is Monogreen Devotion, but playing with 1 Sylvan Caryatid in the main,
and 1
as well as a Cityscape Leveler in the main instead of grabbing it from the sideboard.
There's also one on the board.
And it's a dragon, Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, is also in there. Nothing new, though, other than that.
There's a Filigree Silex on the board, but we kind of already predicted that this would take over Ratchet Bomb. But I also learned through the PT coverage that the Filigree Silex can technically kill, or technically, you can technically put enough oil counters on it with Kiora and the Chainbill combo. You can technically kill with it, which is really funny.
Huh. Oh, nice.
And the last one we have, Starfall. In 8th place, playing... Okay, this is mono white humans, it looks like.
Mono white humans, no new cards.
No new cards. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in there. I guess you don't change what's not broken. Should we go over 9th place as well?
Ninth place is a spicy list. I'm down to talk about 9th place.
Yeah, so 9th place is the Atraxa Grand Unifier deck, which we kind of talked about maybe seeing play, as well as Mommy Norn.
Mm-hmm. Just want to say mommy a bunch of times. Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it a little bit, Ashiok?
Yeah, sure. So I saw this guy's post with the first challenge, and I was really excited to try this deck, and I did run a league of this deck. My issue with this deck, and it was the same issue that he outlined in his tweet about it. Atraxa really only grabs 3 or 4 in this deck. It doesn't do anything like too amazing, because you already run infinite enchantments, you already run and lands and creatures, and like that's really it. That's all I can really grab. This list personally though had a lot of like spicier 1-ofs that we don't really see a lot in these older lists, at least lists that when I was testing, like Shigeki, Juki, Visionary, which I thought was like really interesting. But this is a really interesting take on it. I don't know why we see such a heavy lean towards black in this list. Like we're seeing 8 Triumphs tap for black when we have 1 black card being our 7-drop in our deck. So I think there was a lot of issues with this list when it was being built. However, I do think that it's really... there's also a Siege Rhino. I realized there's also a Siege Rhino. And a Shieldred in the board. Why is there a Shieldred in the board? But anyway.
Why not?
Those are the only cards we're seeing.
Should I keep going? 10th place, we have...
keep going.
Let's go over to...
11th place, we have... Sorry. I'm just going to read
just the archetypes, then we can go on to the next list.
Yeah,
or the next,
it looks
tournament.
like we have... I don't know, what is this next one?
It's the Showcase Challenge from February 20th or 12th. Oh yeah, there's a nice token list in this challenge.
Yeah, token list with Mondrak in there and Jetmir. That's interesting. 12th place, we had... it looks like another Rakdos Midrange deck. 13th place, we had another Mono Green Devotion deck. Spirits hits 14th place. Mono Blue Spirits, that is. And then 15th place, we had a... that looks like Abzan Greasefang. And 16th place, this will be the last one I do, is... Looks like Blue-Black Control.
It's just classic Blue-Black Control.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, do you want to take the next one then? The 12th challenge? Or the showcase?
Make sure I've got the right one.
Showcase from the 12th.
This is the Derek winner. Or
Dirks.
Yeah,
Dirk.
Pioneer Showcase Challenge from February 12th.
Yep, okay, I've got it. So yeah, our winner here was a nice Enigmatic Incarnation deck. Love to see that. This one does have, the one of Elesh Norn, the one of... Does this have a one of Atraxa?
It doesn't have the Atraxa.
So no, it does
got
not.
Cut for a second glass pool, I think.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, running only the 1/7 drop, it looks like, with the Titan of Industry. Is there any other 7 drop?
I think it's in the...
Oh, and Agent of Treachery.
Yeah,
okay.
I was about to say, I remember seeing an Agent in this list.
No, second place was a red-green vehicles. Anything here special? This one's running Embercleave, which I think is a little bit interesting, as well as a Hajar Loyal Bodyguard.
Hajar, yes, I can get behind that.
Like we said, we were trying to find something that it's a 2-drop. I guess that makes sense that they'd try some more things. Red-black mid-range, another Enigmatic in 4th place. This one, let's see if it's got the Atraxa. No Atraxa, but yes, Elesh Norn. And a few fun ofs like a Zur, which I like.
I love the Zur.
5th place mono green. Let's see. 6th place is a Greasefang. 7th place is I see a Mightstone Weakstone. This must be something a little bit spicy. Oh no, this is just mono green, but with a single Mightstone and Weakstone in the main deck.
So innovative.
Yeah.
Fun. And then 8th place was a red-black midrange.
Do you want to go over anything else after that? Any other spicy decks?
There's a Spirits. Yeah, go ahead if you got anything.
I would like to just talk about how the metagame's kind of developed for if anyone's looking for a little bit more of a competitive side and a competitive analysis. What we're seeing with red-black is we're seeing a big change in the sideboard. The card that we're seeing a lot more, that's seeing a lot more commonly is Ritual of Soot. That card is a throwback to Guilds of Ravnica, where it's 4 mana, 2 and 2 black, destroy each thing that costs, destroy each creature with CMC 3 or less. We're seeing this see a lot more play to try to combat mono white and a lot more of these like bigger, there's a lot more of these like go wide creature decks that start existing in the format. It's a really interesting change in my opinion. Over extinction event, we're starting to see a less extinction events. It also helps out against Gruul, which is like a matchup that already just they kind of struggled with. And yeah, if we want to talk about spicy things, I'll throw it back to you because I have something that I saw in this challenge.
Oh, what do you got, Ryan?
I mean, we're talking about stuff from the Showcase
12th,
challenge,
yeah.
right? On the 12th?
Yeah, the Showcase challenge, yeah.
I haven't seen anything else really that caught my eye. It seems like going down through the 16th list, it's just, like all Rakdos and stuff like that.
Did you see
and vehicles?
Did you see a vehicles deck that ran a new card that we haven't talked about yet?
Sword of Forge and Frontier in 16th place.
That's kind of one of them, but I was more so trying to talk about Luca. Oh, that one's on the 10th list from Odorous Ungris. It's from...
Oh, are we on the wrong one?
No.
Oh, no, here we go.
10th
Yeah,
place.
10th place.
Yeah.
One of Luca, Bound.
There's also one in the board.
And one in the board.
I think the thing that we learned with this is that...
Yeah, what is Luca doing for this deck?
Luca's doing the thing that Esca Chariot already does, where it just kind of goes wide.
Okay.
You're also still able to play Jeffrey with Luca, which is interesting knowledge. Didn't know that was how that card works, but apparently you can. It just goes wide. It creates beasts. It helps ramp. It helps like triple, double cast spells, because that's where you get to in this game, because there's a lot of efficiency in our spells with all of them being like adventure cards, so you have to spend a lot more mana. It's really interesting how it's developed with Gruul Vehicles wanting this card as like a top end finisher.
Yeah, interesting. I have not seen it.
I like it. Willing to give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm always interested in Willie Edel's decks. He's always played Embercleave, or he kind of tried to switch it up, I should say. Like, I know in the past he's played like 4 Embercleave in the sideboard and then like vehicles in the main, and then just kind of like switched them out when they bring in the hate or whatever for it.
Wait, Ryan, do you think Odorous Ungris is Willie Idol?
No, 16th place one.
Oh, okay. I thought we were still on the 10th one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to the 6th. Yeah, I went to the 16th one. He's playing the Sword of Forge and Frontier and Embercleave. And I've actually been testing out Forge and Frontier, at least on Explorer, and I liked it a lot. I think it's a very powerful card. It gives you a lot of card advantage if you can sneak in those hits, being able to play an extra land, and then being able to play those cards as well. Really, really good. Kind of underrated, in my opinion.
We also see him testing Cankerbloom, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, we had high hopes for that, didn't we?
We just thought it would be like really efficient. It's just kind of like one of those upgrades to what was it? Outland Liberator.
Mm-hmm.
Like a new face on it. Yeah.
3/2. Good
3/2.
body.
Good beats.
Yeah.
And it's a Phyrexian Fungus, which is good puns.
Yeah. You guys move on to the 18th challenge?
Yeah, I guess it's my go. I guess I get to talk about it. Just the challenge, right? And that's the one where we saw Poker's Wizard take it down. Yeah, so in first place, we see Red Black. Oh, so exciting. Looking through the list, not a lot that's too interesting. Liliana the Veil's making a comeback, which is really cool. The meta is kind of just like doing the thing where it circles around and eventually comes back to cards.
Why is she better now, you think?
I don't exactly know. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that her uptick got a lot better because Greasefang kind of went away. With Lotus being popular, Liliana Veil gets better.
Yeah, true.
Happy Sandwich, we see him again, our boy, winning everything. Red green vehicles. We see that we're up to another Maze Crusher in the main. He played 2, I believe, last week. And we're seeing Thrun, Breaker of Silence in the board with a Luca.
See, I was kind of high on that, I think, in my set review. And you guys are like, I don't know.
I wasn't too sure about it because we didn't really see green have to run can't be countered cards because like the big hateful green card is the Aethergust card, which got around it anyway. So like a green can't be countered card is like not as impressive as like an Esper Colors one. So I kind of dismissed it a little bit, but I'm wrong. And I'm okay with it because now we get to see Thren see play, and then you get to see all the cool manga arts for him. All see all them see play, and that's all we want. But moving on,
place?
third we see Izzet Phoenix making a little comeback. You know, deck's been on the downswing for a while now, and we see it with the third place.
So I mean, it was kind of hated out of the format a while back, right? Was that just because people are just playing too much graveyard hate, and like you said, now they're moving away from that, or
it's a little bit of an incidental graveyard hate thing. It also just becomes I think this list specifically did a little bit better because it's not playing Ledger Shredder, it's playing Thing in the Ice. Right now the meta's kind of shifted to being a lot more of like a put all your creatures in play and attack, or be Lotus combo kind of meta, and so Thing in the Ice got a lot better, and so I think that's why we see it here. I think specifically why we saw Phoenix do quite well today. I think Phoenix is still a deck that's like tier 2, tier 3. I don't think it's like gotten any better because of this result. However, I think this guy teched his deck well enough. I know Daniels, he plays a whole bunch of challenges. Great guy. He just teched his deck well and won. So go him.
Can you tell us a little bit about the new tech in the 4th place deck, by the way? There's a couple new cards in the Greasefang.
So we're seeing, I want to call this a Zoomer Greasefang, a little bit more of like a new nuanced take from Team Shake Hands, or I think that's what their official team name was called. We're seeing Traverse the Ovalworld make a little bit of like a little comeback into this deck. We're seeing Scrapwork Mutt, the good boy, and then we're seeing Vessel of I'm not going to say this.
Nascency.
Yeah, it's a big word. Couldn't say it. But we're also seeing the mana base being able to support the Unearth ability on it with Mana Confluence, and it's moving away from Can't Stay Away, which I think is super interesting. So the idea here is we're trying, instead of trying to incidentally mill over our card that we wanted, we're trying to find it more often. So we're cutting the Stitcher Suppliers, we're cutting the Can't Stays Aways, we're playing more Traverse, we're playing more Scrapwork Mutts, we're playing more Vessels. Vessel and Scrapwork Mutt both turn on Traverse a lot better. And they're also just like good value, like they're fine cards. A Vessel of Nascency worked really well against Thoughtseize, which really impressed me because you were just able to access it on your opponent's end step, mill your cards or whatever, put a Parhelion in the bin maybe, and then you just get the thing that you need and good to go. You just get your little Greasefang.
So am I wrong to say this is maybe a little bit more resilient against the graveyard hate because those past decks were just like, hey, let's throw it all in the yard and get it back, and this one's like, let's just find it?
I wouldn't say it's a little bit more resilient because you still have the issue where you do need it in the bin to be able to like combo. I would say that this is a little bit more consistent.
You can choose when to put it in the bin, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit more so than you could with the last one. You kind of just were like, well, I guess it's in the bin now. I guess I got there. Like, it was a little bit more like slots is what I want to say.
Yeah,
and now it's
like
a lot
basically
more consistent.
Because Scrapwork Mutt's basically like Rafine's of Format 5 and 6.
Yep. And then Vessel is just another card that just dodges Thoughtseize, which is all that this deck wanted. Was just more ways to dodge Thoughtseize. In the board, we don't see anything too exciting. Just normal stuff. But we move on to 5th place. And we see some new cards in an old shell. We see Mono White, and we're seeing 3 Might of Runes, or Skrillex, Defector Mites. And we're seeing a playset of Ossification in this list.
Yeah.
I think Ossification in this list is a little wild because I didn't think you would see play in Mono White humans. I thought that this card was like a little bit too low to the ground, or like a little bit not too low to the ground. I thought Mono White humans wanted to be doing other things like putting creatures into play to try to attack, not try to stall the board state or remove a big thing. But
this was able to get rid of the elements, Brave the Elements, and because it has the Skrelv in there instead. To be able to push damage through, which I think is kind of a good idea. And then because you don't have to play those, you have more room. So I can see Ossification getting rid of some of the problem cards that might stand in your way. And it's also got 2 Sword of Forge and Frontier in the sideboard. I see.
Oh yeah, Sword has been really impressive in the format for me as like a kind of like a tech card. I didn't see it like that. I thought it was either you're playing 4 of this card or you're playing none of this card. I didn't think we'd be like 2 in the board.
Kevin's been really quiet over there. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Nothing you want to talk
quietly
about?
Agreeing.
Comments?
Yeah, nothing huge here.
Hey, guess what? We're going down to Shadows with, oh my god, guess what? Mono White. We're back.
Yeah.
The only thing
elements this
the only thing we're seeing with this list is we're seeing it shift towards like a little bit older style. However, we still do see some, I want to put quotations on it, newer innovations with where he played one Skyclave apparition and it worked out for him. But in the board, we see 2 Ossifications. So we see Ossifications showing up again as one of the more powerful cards.
And then
moving on,
7th place?
Moving on to 7th place, we see a familiar name, Draft. Our boy's back. He's been busy doing school stuff, and now he's crushing challenges again. And we see him crush with two of Might of Runes again in his deck. Skrelv. We see 2 of them in it's blue-white spirits. Nothing too interesting with the rest of the cards, though.
I have a question real quick. We've seen Skrelv pop up a lot, in these lists so far. Mono white, spirits, and, kind of to jump ahead a little bit, it's also in the Auras deck that we're going to be talking about later. And I'm wondering, does it just go, like, in every white deck now? Or are people just kind of, like, jamming him in there, or jamming it in there, just because they can, just to kind of, like, try it out? Like, will we see this drop off after the initial hype dies down?
I think we'll see. I think, yes, at the start, it was because new card, want to test its power level, want to see how it goes. And now we're getting the results. We're in the results portion. And now we're going to be making the decision of whether or not we keep playing with this card. And I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more of this card. Now, you said that it's going to be a fit-all into all the decks. No, I don't think it's going to be a fit-all into all the white decks. However, I do think with a lot of these creature-heavy aggro decks, which are really popular in the format, we'll see a lot more the card will see a lot more play in those decks.
Okay. You want to do 8th place real quick?
Well, how's it played for you specifically? Have you gotten I'm not a big aggro guy personally, so I haven't got really like played around with it. But from what I saw on coverage, it was really good at being able to like push damage, because you would just give it protection from whatever, like, because a lot of the format is just 1 or 2 colors at the top tables. Like, I think we mainly see like mono white, green white, or not green white, red black or blue red or whatever. Like, it's really good at being able to push damage through blockers, a lot better than I gave it credit for sure. Okay.
But we do still have one more deck to talk about, and I'm so excited to talk about this new innovation called mono green. In 8th place. However, we do see this guy. I think he had like a deck registration error or something. He put like 2 Corsair crew picks on his deck. I don't really know what that's about, but it's here. Huh. There's 2 of them. There's also 2 Skylash from the board, which is really funny. That card is good vibes, but not great.
And I don't know if we're gonna go through the other list, but we do see Izzet's creativity starting to kind of show up as well. 9th place.
Yeah, I think Izzet creativity is one of those decks where people are scared to bring it because it has a little bit more of like one of those polarizing decks. Like either it's going to do really well at doing the thing, or it's not going to do its thing at all. It's just like was seen as like a worse Izzet Phoenix for a long time, but to spoil what goes on a little bit later, it got built better.
Yeah. Everything else I don't think is really too exciting.
No, I'm not
going down to 16th place. Just same old. Should we go over this last Super Qualifier? Do you want to do it, Kevin, or should I do it? Because I've kind of been jumping in here and there.
Sure. This is the one from the
February
18th
Super Qualifier.
Yeah,
I got it. All right, I'll run down the top 8 here. So this one was won by Roasty56 on. Looks like this is a. This is an interesting list. This is a Bring to Light list, but it's a little bit different from what we've seen. 4 Umnath, 1 Valky, 1 Elish Norn in this is very interesting.
That's the winner.
No,
that's not the winner.
Sorry. So what happened with? I noticed this, by the way, with the results for the
Rosty's
few weeks. The bracket is wrong.
Okay.
But the deck lists I think are correct.
Okay. So Rossi didn't win.
I think Rotor won.
Rotor or Zengel won with this very interesting Bring to Light list.
Yeah, that's what I think happened.
Nothing I think too unique other than the Elish Norn edition here, but that's pretty cool. 60 card version. Yeah, okay. Number 2, we've got a red-green vehicles. Again, running Migloz, running a 4 of a Crow and War. Is that slight change? Number 3, we've got another red-green. Well, no, this is a mono green, but it's running Sky Sovereign in the main deck, so that's interesting.
And a blast zone.
Probably.
Yeah, and a blast zone. Okay, yeah, that's something.
That's
I was
different.
gonna say probably to get
Number
around
4,
Rakdos,
we've
maybe? I
got
don't know.
spirits.
Mhm.
Spirits is always fun. Number 5, this is another Indomitable Creativity. This one's the one that's going for Xenagos and Worldspine Worm as their win con. One of the less fair creativity combo decks, trying to go for the combo plan. Another mono green, another... Ooh, here's something fun. We've got Light Paws. Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Been wondering where Light Paw's been hiding. This deck, Light Paws is so sweet, and this is running Skrelv, so this is kind of your Boggles deck. And I think I've heard something about this being good in a recent tournament or something like that.
We'll talk about that soon, right?
Yeah. So it's also running this new Audacity, the trying to be the new Rancor, except you draw a card instead of getting it back in your hand. Interested to see how that one turned out, but it seems like 7th place must be doing decently well. And then I will mention 8th place is another Mono White Humans, again running Skrelv in it.
And for
I feel like
the main.
the longer I wait
and Ossification.
I was gonna say, the longer I wait to pull the trigger, I know I'm gonna need Skrelv. I don't want to buy them for like $40 right now for a playset, but I think the longer I wait, the more it's gonna go up.
Yep, you should buy them now. But to jump in, because I think we need to talk about this first place list just a little bit more, because this list is kind of spicy. I think this list is really interesting because it's bringing a new idea forward. I want to call this deck Nivless Niv because it has every other card that's exactly like how Claudio used to build his decks, but we're missing the 6/6 dragon. Where did he go? But we're seeing a deck that's trying to abuse Bring to Light to go find Elesh Norn a little bit more consistently for whenever it's relevant. It's also able to find the board clear, which is what was really good with Niv. You were able to find your Valkies and your Selfless Glyph Weavers, which were just able to take over the game. And then the way that this deck ends up just kind of winning, which is just really, really funny to me, is that Elesh Norn with Onmath is really easy to create the damage trigger because you just need 2 lands to enter. So Fable Passage will then just for your opponent, and you're able to just abuse cards like Hostage Taker as well to double take your opponent's things. I think this deck has a really wide range, and it's really just it just looks so fun to play. And I already know I'm going to be firing up this deck after this stream or after this podcast.
Nice.
Okay, if you don't,
Nivless
before we
Niv. Okay, I'm down.
Before we move on to the Pro Tour results, I just wanted to ask, at this point, how has the metagame changed from the first week on the 11th to the 18th? Like, what changes are we seeing? Are we still, is it still just like all, mono green devotion and mid range? Are we starting to see more aggro? Like, in your opinion, Ashiok, I'm guessing you were playing, MTGO a little bit. How did you see the shift in the metagame from the first week to the second week?
I think so. The first week we definitely saw we saw Mono Red do really well, and I think that the reason we saw a lot of these decks do a little bit more well is just because there were already existing well-found strategies that can punish these clunkier, newer decks because you're playing with new cards, you don't exactly know the numbers to run, you don't exactly know how you're supposed to build it, and so what's really good at beating clunky decks? Consistent decks, red black, Mono Red. They'll kill you quick. Their cards are efficient. But I think how the meta's and now developing is we're seeing a lot more decks get towards the same power level that I think we're starting to see. We're starting to see them be able to compete with Rakdos and Green better. Like Gruul has taken a big step forward now. I think it's gotten a lot better at being able to deal with a lot of these both of those decks. Lotus again is really popular because Green is starting to get a little bit worse. And then I think Mono White didn't perform too well at the PT. However, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of Might of Runes in those lists. So maybe there's just a better list that we're seeing, because we're seeing it pretty consistently in challenges. I just think the gap to the top is a lot less close. I just think that's how the meta's developed. I think we're still seeing a lot of the same decks. We're seeing some come up a little bit. That being I think what was it? Mono White was kind of on the downswing. I think it's come up a lot more recently, especially with these decks. And Mono White Midrange, I think, has gotten a lot better. I just think the gap is a lot less closer now, is my overall opinion.
Okay. Well, are you guys ready to move on?
Yeah, I think it's. I was going to say, just I feel like the changes have been subtle. It hasn't been very like drastic the change, but I think we are seeing like a little bit of a shift to some more of these more interesting strategies. A couple of those decks that are like these Niv decks, these Elesh Norn decks that are kind of just like go over the top of mid range, and we might be seeing a bit more of that maybe. Even the combo decks too, they kind of just go over the top of them.
But you guys want to move on to the Pro Tour?
Let's move on. Tell me about the Pro Tour here.
Hinting at decks here and there that we've been talking about. I don't know, Kevin, do you want to go over them? Because I think...
No, I just went through a bunch of lists.
I would love to talk. I will talk all the time. Always throw it to me.
I'm most excited to talk about the second place deck list. Celestia Auras.
Oh, okay. Sure. I was going to go over what the meta break was going into it.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to do
us some general, because like I said, I've been out of town.
Of course. So the Pioneer metagame, I have the graphic in front of me. I'll go over it really quickly. We saw the biggest deck, the biggest baddie, Rakdos Midrange, come in at 15%, just above, which I think is insanely low. I thought it was going to be so much higher. Going down the list, we see Mono Green Devotion with 13 or just below 14%. Gruul Vehicles just below 10%. I'll continue on. Lotus Field, Mono White, Azorius, Izzet, Rakdos, Izzet Phoenix, Izzet Creativity was the one previously, Celestia Angels, and then other archetypes make up just shy of 20% of the meta. So those are people that have brought two of the same people or less have brought the same deck.
And I mean, to kind of before we go over the top 8, someone put a neat little spreadsheet together that talked about how each of these decks did, like what their win percentages were. And like you said, you thought Rakdos was going to be everywhere. It only got 46% of only won 46% of the time. Mono Green Devotion only won 46% of the time. Gruul Vehicles only won 47%. Humans put up a measly 36% win percentage. And then the other cards, the other decks that didn't even show up on that other one. We had Sacrifice, Rakdos Sacrifice, that had 52% win. Win percentage. Lotus Field had 52% win percentage. Izzet Creativity got about almost 55%. Azorius Control did pretty well at this tournament, had 55% win percentage. Izzet Phoenix had a lot fewer matches, but had 55% win percentage. Auras, almost 60%. It did 59, just about 59, just under that. Angels got 54. It's not bad. Grease Fang, I'm guessing people were just unprepared. Not a lot of players, didn't play a lot, but 66% win percentage. Which is pretty good. Omnath to Light, also not many people were playing it, but had 61% win percentage. And Enigmatic Fires, 52%. And then I think the only other one we had was Azorius Lotus Field, and I guess that did better than the regular Azorius Control. And they're basically, it's just another control deck. So yeah, pretty interesting to see how these decks did.
So I think this is interesting. Normally I would go in and say like, okay, look, let's not say like right off the top decks of the format, because you kind of always see it where in bigger events, the top decks of the format usually have around 50, maybe even worse than 50% win rate, because you'd expect there's a lot of people playing them. That means more wins, more head-to-heads that can be losses for one of the two. And just like general people just like playing the deck more, not being masters of it. But this is also the Pro Tour. We kind of have to be like, okay, these are the best of the best players. Like they probably know what they're doing if they're playing that deck. So it's not like, someone just doesn't know the format at all. It's like, okay, I'll pick up, red black because it's the most popular deck. I just kind of want to give that side because normally I would jump in and kind of defend the loss rate of those top decks. But here it's a little bit harder just because they are such good players.
Yeah, I think the way we can try to defend it is the fact that it included. I think it is said on graphic that they included mirrors, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these decks ended up playing against each other. I think Rakdos had a really poor win rate because everybody knew it was the best deck. So I think a lot more people opted towards it. For those who didn't have enough time or had other constraints and just kind of defaulted towards it because they thought it would be the good deck. But I think the name of the game for this tournament was innovation. I think innovation is what worked really well with the new set.
Okay, so that seems like a good segue into what won, this tournament, or what got our top 8, our top 16.
Yeah, our top 8 we should talk.
Yeah, I'll just read down the top 8, and then I'll talk about a deck list that I want to talk about, and then maybe you guys could choose some deck list that you want to talk about as well, if that's all right with you. Does that work?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
So, top 8, we had Shota Yasuoka. This is the end of the Swiss. Rakdos Midrange. We had Benton Madsen on Celestial Auras. Takumi Matsuura on Mono White Humans. Reed Duke was on Izzet Creativity. Nathan Stewart, Lotus Field Combo. Chris Ferber, Lotus Field Combo. Izzet Creativity was played by Gabriel Nassif at 7th place. And Derek Davis was on Enigmatic Fires. That rounds out our top 8. So I want to talk about Celestial Auras. I was really excited to watch this deck being played the whole weekend. Again, we see 4 Skrelv Defector Mites, which I think this type of deck is 100% the type of deck you want to have Skrelv for, because you're loading up all these auras and stuff on one big creature. You want to be able to protect it, and this just it's just better value because it's another creature that could get an aura on it if everything else has been destroyed, unlike playing something that's just going to give it like not Brave Elements, but
indestructible for a turn.
Yeah, it just stays around. It sticks around. Glade Clever Scout, love to have that hexproof on there. Everything else. Generous Visitor, I think, is pretty interesting. It's the 1 mana card from 1 green mana card from Neo Dynasty, and it's whenever you play an aura, I think it gets a +1/+1 counter, or actually you put
puts
a
it on
+1
something.
Counter
any enchantment
on target creature. Yeah, which is so you just keep loading it up on something that has protection already.
Can I ask a dumb question here? Like I said, I have literally been out of town, did not get any coverage of this Pro Tour. Was that top 8 rating you just were starting to rattle off purely on Pioneer, or was this like limited?
So the first 3 rounds of each day was limited, and then it was 5 rounds of Pioneer. So total 10 rounds of Pioneer and 6 rounds of draft. Yeah.
Okay, so that's just important to weigh out. Like, yes, this may not be these players may have gone 6-0 in limited, and 5-5 in Pioneer, and still made the top 8. Just to put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise,
go on, sorry.
I think the enchantments are pretty much the same old that you'll see in a traditional Auras deck. Of course, we have the Razor Verge Thicket, which really helped out the mana base. Don't even see the Pain Lands in here anymore. And sideboard, it is a Giganta deck. We have Extraction Specialist, which I really like that tech of, just because, hey, let's bring back our Skrelv. Don't really need to attack with it. Let's just keep giving it, giving stuff protection and whatnot. I think that's really cool. Adanta Vanguard, Hushbringer. I really like this sideboard here. I think it's very, very clean, very optimized, and aside from maybe like the Boseiju and stuff, I think this is a very budget deck, and I'm happy to see something like this come back to Paper Magic again. Like, it gives me the same kind of feeling when we had like our first Pioneer event and Black White Auras came onto the field in Japan. But that's a deck that I was most excited to talk about. You guys want to choose 1 or 2 from the top 8 that you want to talk about?
I was going to talk about it collectively, so if you had any interest, go for it.
Ooh. Well, let me just talk about the creativity list, because I do think they are very cool. Let me see if I can grab the actual list here.
Go for it.
Sorry, it's loading for me. So what was their win con on this creativity?
It was the Xenagos World Spiral Worm with 2 Hullbreaker Horrors in the board.
All right, so you could still go into that kind of side option of being a little bit of a control list. I think that's clean. If you're going to go for it, you might as well win the game when you hit it, and not just like grab 2 Gear Hulks or grab 2 Agent of Treacheries and then like be in an advantage position but not necessarily winning.
Uh-huh.
So I like this. I like that a lot. Ooh, I wonder if there's any build where you grab a Elesh Norn and something else.
If there is, I haven't thought of it, because trust me, I tried. I tried really hard for that one.
Ooh, okay.
But there's not a lot. Well, here's the thing: is like this deck has no new cards really inside of it, and this has been around. People just haven't been playing it, and I think that's really, really showing. I guess you could say that just says people really have to do a deep dive on the Pioneer format instead of. I mean, I would say the format rewards people who do a deep dive. as opposed to just like, picking a deck that's been doing well in the metagame.
I also think Pioneer really rewards experience in the format right now.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of nuances that I see a lot of newer players struggle with. Like evaluating efficiency of cards. Because like a lot of these cards, people don't really play with that often. Like it's weird to say, Dig Through Time is one of the most powerful cards in Magic. Like it's up there. It's really powerful. But like you can't play it in Modern.
Sure. Yeah.
You can't play it in Legacy. So Pioneer, it exists.
Shark Typhoon, not seeing a ton of play. Yeah, I agree with you there.
It was really interesting, but if I'm able to just take over and go for the rest of these decks, because I got some funny things.
Go for it.
So we have 2 Lotus combo decks. We have 2 very key differences, and I'll talk about the boring one first. Sorry, but it is a little bit more on the boring side. Which would be Chris's deck. We just see a really stock list. There's not a lot that was like too interesting in the board. A lot of these cards were like pretty stock. It was pretty interesting, but Nathan's Team Handshake, tweeted out the night before the Pro Tour on Thursday night with "I'm looking for these cards," and it was a bunch of just bad. Like I think the list was Beseju's. I think it was like he needed 20 copies of Beseju. He needed 20 a bunch of copies of Dragonlord Dramoka and Elder Gargaroth, and like other random green big fatty cards. And then everyone was like, haha, that's so funny. Like, look at this pro make a meme. Like, it was bait. But no, he's playing them in his board. He is genuinely playing these cards. He actually registered Dragonlord Dramoka in a constructed format. Because it was just the best way to get around all that counter magic. He just figured it out. He was like, yeah, blue cards? Yeah, don't care. And it was really cool. It was really interesting. I thought that was like something that maybe would get overlooked. Because nobody really, maybe not everyone's a Twitter degen like myself.
No, yeah, that's pretty funny.
So Lotus Field, do you see Lotus Field did well because people just weren't, they didn't respect it? Like, we've always said that it could always be good in the format. It's just waiting for people to just kind of like let their guard down. Would you say that's why it did so well? Or?
No, actually. I think it did well because of the point I stated earlier where it was just experts playing this deck. Like, we saw so many good players register this deck that were just grinded the matchups, just knew the ins and outs of this deck. Because I think out of any deck in Pioneer, I think the 2 decks that reward you the most for your deck knowledge is this deck, Lotus Field, and I think it's Mono Green. Because the nuances and just the ease of knowing when to combo and how to combo with Lotus Field is a lot bigger than it is with Mono Green. But this deck does reward you when you just know what you're doing and know what lines to go for. Because I think we all can safely say we've had stories of the quote-unquote worst Lotus player we've ever played against where we were just so confused about what they were doing.
Oh, I know exactly. Yeah, 100%.
So this is I think we just saw masters of this deck pick it up and it worked out for them. But looking at the other lists, we see just a copy of Red Black from Shota. Looking at this list, we don't really see anything too interesting. Not a lot of the new cards. The only thing that we can really make commentary about is just the fact that he played a main deck Duress. Ooh, spooky. That's the only really new thing that we saw. We do see the full 3 copies of Ritual of Soot with 2 copies of Extinction Event as well, so he was really prepared for the board clears. But his list was just stock. Looked great. Looked good. Not a lot of like innovative ideas, just good cards that have already been tested.
I was going to say there's a lot of one-ups in the sideboard, and I think we've kind of said this before that I don't know if this is just like a Japanese player thing or if it's just like a pro player thing where they can get away with just playing like one of each of these things. Because like you said, they can evaluate and recognize, what they need and how to use their cards so well.
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. You actually hit the nail on the head with that one. Looking up, we see mono white humans that also top 8. The thing that we see with this list is it's the list that we've been talking about, the list that we've seen online do really well with 4 Ossification in the main and 3 Skrelv. So Skrelv put, what was that, 7 copies into the top 8?
Yeah, I'm going to have to buy that card.
Yeah, you might as well buy it now. I bought a copy of Swords of Ford and Frontier for mono white, and that card was already 46 Canadian. So you got to pick up these cards quickly before they start
to work tonight. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, they're getting expensive. But like this list was stock when he was playing it. It looked great. Like just Skrelv did exactly what Skrelv would do, which is brave the elements.
And Enigmatic Fires rounds out the rest of our top 8, I think. Anything new
Yeah.
in there?
And that's my baby. This is the one I left till the very end. So I'll talk more as the person that tries to build these lists pretty consistently and tries to think of the ideas. Some of the cards that are really interesting is he's playing the second Glasspool Mimic. We don't see this a lot. This card, the second Glasspool Mimic, was really an issue with the deck because you needed something in play for it to be good already, and the struggle was putting something into play. But I think this it becomes a lot more better in like the grindier matchups, which I think is where Pioneer actually was heading. Another card that you might not actually know because I had to read it when I saw him cast it, or I saw his list in top 8, was Hanged Executioner. I believe this card's from Core 19, if I remember correctly. But it's 2.
Ooh, is that the spirit? I wanna take a shot at this one. Is that one the blue and 2
Nope.
for a 1/1 spirit?
Not blue. Not blue.
Oh, white and 2 for a 1/1 spirit with flying. And when it enters, you also make a 1/1 spirit with flying. And oh man, you can like pay 2 and sacrifice a spirit to exile a creature or something like that.
Close. It's 4 mana, exile himself, exile target creature.
Got it.
Yeah, this card was really
I didn't know
interesting.
This was a card.
And the reason I never thought about it, and the reason I think it actually did really, really well, is that you sacrifice your 2-drop, and you go get it, and then when you have fires up on your turn, boom.
Ooh, yeah.
And it also is a tutorable way to kill an Elesh Norn. I was playing ECD like a goober, and this guy already figured out that Hanged Executioner was the way around an opposing Elesh Norn.
Oh, see, I had said Binding of the Old Gods.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people play that.
You can't support black in this deck too well. So you can only like run 1, maybe 2 cards of it, and I think that's already sus. But yeah, the rest of this list looks really stock. He added Oath of Chandra's, which I think is really interesting. I wasn't really a fan of that card. Kenrith is back. My Hippo God is gone. I don't get to draw a bunch of cards off Kruga. I understand. Kenrith is back because it works really, really well when there's an Elesh Norn on the other side. That is why it is.
Yeah.
Kruga does not do really well into an Elesh Norn. If anything, kind of does really bad. But in the sideboard, we don't really see anything too interesting. I think he's playing Temporary Lockdown in the board, which I am not a fan of. But if it worked for him, he did better than me. So what do I know? So, but all of these lists were really solid. And like I said, I think there was a lot of new innovative ideas that were put forward, like Team CFB coming up with the creativity list that just did really well.
You mean to run through the rest of the top 16?
Sure.
Go for it.
I mean, just the archetypes. You don't need to go through the
Absent,
decks.
so yeah, 9th place, David Inglis was on Absent Greasefang. Chi Hui Hang was on Mono White. Humans in 10th place. We had Rakdos Sacrifice with Marcio Carvalho. In 11th place, Lotus Field. In 12th place with Tristan Wild LaRue. Jean-Emmanuel Dipraz had Izzet Phoenix in 13th. Rakdos Midrange was Kazune Kosaka. In 14th place, 15th was Joe Lawsett with Lotus Field combo, and 16th was Azoria Spirits by Daniel Kristoff. And I do want to say I'm kind of happy that Celestial Angels, my deck, made top 20. That's pretty cool. We have another Abs and Auras.
All right,
deck
love
at
it.
the bottom.
Yep. So the way the tournament ended up going out, we saw Reed Duke beat Brenton Madsen. So Creativity beat Auras in the finals.
That's cool.
3-0. And the thing that makes the thing that's really funny to me about this was I remember being at work on Friday, pull up the Magic stream, and the very first round of Pioneer that was played was Reed Duke versus Brenton Madsen in round 4. It was they predicted on the desk that Reed Duke was going to absolutely wipe the floor with Brenton. There was the segment that was like Maddie and the Machine or whatever. And then boom, Brenton 2-0's Reed Duke, like very quickly. And I thought it was the funniest because now we come back and well, Reed Duke got his revenge.
There we go. All right. Well, I think that covers all the results, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to talk about, because I had a couple questions for you guys, if you don't mind moving on.
Yeah, let's move on.
So my next question is, after seeing all these results from the Pro Tour, do you think that, these results are going to impact the metagame at all? Will people be playing more Lotus Field now? Or, will they be playing some more Izzet Creativity? Like, how do you guys expect this to change the Pioneer metagame in the coming month?
I think Boggles I could see popping back up. I don't feel like Creativity or Lotus Field was unheard of to be seeing that online a lot.
I think that we'll see like a resurgence, but I think when you're playing a league, what I used to find was you would see a lot of the same decks. Like I had leagues where I'd see like Mono Green 3 times, and I had leagues where I'd see Rakdos 3 times. I think we're going to see a lot more diversity in the meta, which I think is really good. Diversity already existed, but we saw a little bit more towards the top and the bottom, and I think this is going to really equalize it.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see auras getting picked up just because it's a casual deck, and we do have a lot more people that casually play Pioneer, I think, than people that grind it. I don't know if we'll see so many people bringing it to, like the RCQs and stuff like that. I think in the RCQs we'll probably see more Lotus Field and creativity, but like at just regular events, I think you'll see a lot of like auras. Sacrifice put up some good numbers too. Maybe Grease Thing will also be back. So I think that's how that will affect Pioneer, depending on where you're playing in the next month or so. Last thing I wanted to talk about was, we saw all these cards. We talked about how many of the, Skrelv, for example, showed up in these top decks. And Wizards actually posted a really good article, during their Pro Tour Phyrexia Pioneer metagame breakdown. That talked about how many cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One were played. And I wanted to ask you guys, what cards would you say overperformed in your opinion, and which cards underperformed? Like I would say Skrelv overperformed, like seeing how much it showed up.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have that anywhere on my radar. I didn't have Migloz or the Maze Crusher
Migloz,
on my did not have that anywhere near. I think
that's a good one.
I think I was really high on Bloated Contaminator.
I was about to say Bloated Contaminator.
I was really high on that, so I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited. And then I don't see any of that, but I did get my shot calls correctly. I did get some of my shot calls correctly. I think Ossification performed adequately. I think that card. We saw 8 copies in main decks with 3 in the sideboard. I think it performed exactly where I thought it would. And then I think Mommy underperformed as well. I think that card I thought we'd see a lot more play.
I think more than the Elesh Norn, I think the one that's surprising me is Phyrexia. She's showing up in so many other older formats. The fact that she had some hype for Pioneer but didn't show up makes me think that maybe there is still a home for her out there, but it's definitely not showing up yet.
Yeah, I think we haven't found the best Atraxa build in Pioneer yet, because the metagame is really awkward, because you have to be able to deal with Monograin, be fair enough to play against Rakdos, and also be able to stop all the creature aggro decks while also being able to stop Lotus. So it's really hard for new decks to emerge in this format. So that's why Atraxa hasn't exactly poked through yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see her soon.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think, just one more final thing I wanted to say was I think that we will see the format still evolve during the season before the next set comes out in April. Like you said, Atraxa still needs to find, Atraxa still needs to find a home, and I think there's gonna be a couple more decks that are gonna be optimized and stuff like that. So during the RCQ season for phase 3?
Yeah.
Round 3, cycle 3,
phase
whatever.
3, cycle 3, whatever it is.
Yeah. But I definitely think we'll see a couple new decks come out and more optimized build, and I'm really looking forward to that. But Kevin, you want to take us out then?
All right, I'll lead us out to our outro here. So if you guys enjoy this kind of content, if you want to hear more about it, go ahead and follow us at MTG Pioneer on Twitter. You can also find a link to our Discord there, where you'll be able to keep up to date with all kinds of things going on in Pioneer, talk to our hosts, and just have fun talking Pioneer things. That was my high-speed ramble. Ashok, why don't you go ahead and go through some socials?
I would love to. Dreams of Ashiok on Twitter. Your boy is back-to-back face-to-face top 8 winners with top 8ers with very different decks. It's a very fun time over there. Still posting all my goofy content. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver on Twitch. That's shout out to the Alberta people as well. That's all I gotta say.
All right. And you guys can find me on Twitter at YoJapanHobbyist. I hope I can see you on there. Or I've been taking over the MTG Pioneer Twitter from time to time to kind of post my polls and stuff like that. So be sure to check those out. And I hope to see you guys in the Discord as well. Thank you very much.
All right. That's going to bring us to the end of our show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Pro Tour competitors, for all of your great additions to Pioneer content. Thank you, Ashok, for joining us. We always appreciate your additions to the show. And thank you to all of our listeners out there. We are the First Pioneers Podcast. We look forward to being your go-to source for Pioneer information online. Your First Pioneers are getting worse every week.